Hey family, Kelly here. It's New Testament week 19 in the Drakestone Aquarium, and today we're going to talk about marriage. Marriage is what brings us together today. We're rooting through the Lord's marriage counsel in Matthew 19, plus the treasures buried in the substrate in Genesis 2. So sit back, relax, enjoy the tank, and let's chat. In Matthew 19:4, we're reminded that in the beginning, God created them male and female. Why do we need two genders? I mean, there's certain organisms that don't need two genders to reproduce, so why do we need it? The first thing that comes to mind is that the Lord gave each gender certain strengths that work well together. Gender teaches us to rely on each other. To demonstrate, let's say a teenage boy comes home from school one day with a black eye. How does mom usually handle it? Mom teaches her son that if he's being bullied, he needs to go to the proper authorities about it, tell a teacher, things like that. Mom calls the school to alert them to the problem, and then maybe the bully's mother to learn about why the bully's being so mean, and also so the bully's mother can deal with the problem on her end. Mom might also give her son ideas about how to defuse the situation. Dad handles it differently. He teaches his son how to defend himself and encourages him to stand up to the bully. Mom's more socially minded approach teaches the son about dealing with authority, alternatives to fighting in order to solve a problem, and how to consider the needs of others and understand the force driving the bully to fight. Understanding the bully's motivation, as well as these other factors, can help the son figure out a way to avoid the next fight the bully tries to start. On the other hand, Dad's approach gives the son the skills he needs to keep himself safe in case a fight breaks out before the slower, social approach has time to work. Having those skills will increase the son's confidence, which in itself can make him less of a target because bullies tend to prey on the weak and fearful. So which approach is the right one? Well, in Mom's mind, teaching the boy to fight won't help him recognize the importance of submitting to authority, and it discourages good social skills and conflict resolution. While in Dad's mind, talking to the teacher and the bully's mother won't save their son from another black eye if the bully attacks again. The truth is, neither approach is the right one by itself, because each parent is focused on different aspects of the problem. But when you put them both together, now you've got a more comprehensive, and therefore effective, solution. It's one reason why you need both genders in a marriage. Men's and women's minds work differently, so no matter the problem, a man and a woman will approach it from different angles. They'll have the best chance of solving the problem in the most effective way if they recognize each other's unique perspective and weave their ideas together. This is also why husband and wife are encouraged to counsel together in all things as equal partners. In verse 5, Jesus emphasizes the importance of leaving father and mother. Why do we have to leave them? One reason, I think, is because a husband and wife need to become their own team, trusting in, counseling with, and relying first and foremost on each other. When we're more loyal to our parents' ideas than to our spouses, it sends the message that we don't love or trust our spouse like we do our parents. We need to put our spouse and our marriage before all else. Friends, parents, even our jobs. When we're loyal first to each other, it creates a stronger marriage. So we're counseled to cut the umbilical and become one flesh with our spouse. What does it mean to be one flesh? The key is in verse 4, when Jesus says, quote, "Have ye not read?" Those magical words means he's quoting someone else right now. And that means the original quote is elsewhere, waiting with shiny little treasures hidden in its substrate. And you know how I love context. Let's check it out. The original quote comes from Genesis chapter 2, verses 21 through 25. After the creation, the Lord took one of Adam's ribs, and from it made a woman, and brought her to him. Verse 23, and Adam said, "This is now bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man." I love the tenderness in that. She came from my flesh. She's a part of me. How did that shape his feelings toward her, to know she came from him? I've contemplated the bond of being flesh of one's flesh many times over the years, as I've massaged pregnant women. The parent-child bond is the flesh of my flesh bond. Think of the connection a father and a mother feel for their newborn baby. Your DNA formed the framework for this precious body, and your efforts brought this light into the world. The mother devoted her body's energy and resources to form and feed the unborn child within her, while the father cared for the mother and her body in this exhausting task, ensuring the health and safety of both mother and baby, and giving baby the best chance possible to grow. After birth, this child is yours to care for, just as you would care for your own body. Your whole life revolves around nurturing, protecting, and teaching your children. Your child's failures and successes become yours. It pains you when they're hurting. Their joy makes you happy. Why? Because you share a special bond with your children. They're part of you. They came from you. They're flesh of your flesh. That's the kind of bond that Adam shared with Eve. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, when he says, "Therefore," or for that reason, "shall a mother leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh." I think he's talking about the need to form the same kind of bond with your spouse that you do your children. How eager are we to see our spouse succeed? Are we as supportive of their endeavors as we are our children? Our spouses need love, affection, and nurturing too. We love our spouse more than our own life, just as a loving parent devotes his or her life to their children. We cry when our spouse cries. We laugh when they laugh. We put their needs and their happiness before our own, because our spouse's happiness is what brings us the most joy. Marriage means dedicating your life to someone else. It's about finding the one person you love so much you're willing to put their needs before yours forever. It's not about what your spouse can do for you. It's choosing one person and devoting yourself to them. Your time and energy goes toward lifting them when they're down, encouraging them, and helping them succeed, and in return, they devote themselves to you. After leaving father and mother, Jesus and Adam counsel that we should cleave to our spouse. The dictionary says cleave means to adhere firmly and closely, or loyally and unwaveringly. How do we do that in our marriage? Marriage is a relationship of selflessness. It's about stepping outside yourself and living for someone else. As one flesh, husband and wife are two parts of one whole, building a life together, working together to preserve their family. Our personal goals and aspirations, therefore, must be adapted to this other-centered way of living. I learned this early on. As I started my career in massage, my husband asked me not to massage men, and I agreed not to, because I wanted to put him and our marriage first in my life. But finding a job wasn't easy. I sat through almost 30 interviews that pretty much ended the moment I told them I wouldn't massage men. No one wanted to hire a therapist who refused to work on half their clientele. So I lowered my sights and found a job working at one of those massage franchises, but I didn't have to work on men, and my marriage is stronger because of it. Over the years, the Lord's blessed me with loyal clients and good employers who believe in giving raises. I firmly believe that when we make sacrifices for our marriage, the Lord honors those sacrifices. And honestly, when my female coworkers come to me and say, "You're so lucky you don't have to work on men, because guess what this creepy guy at my table just said to me," it feels more like a blessing than a sacrifice. Now, I'm not saying all male clients are creepy. The majority are nice and respectful, I hear. But creepy on the table happens. In Matthew 19:6, Jesus finishes off with, "What therefore God hath joined together, let not man put asunder." Now we see the next element. Are we joined together in God? While serving in the quorum of the 12 apostles, Elder Gordon B. Hinckley counseled, quote, "I know of no single practice that will have a more salutary effect upon your lives than the practice of kneeling together as you begin and close each day. Somehow, the little storms that seem to afflict every marriage are dissipated when, kneeling before the Lord, you thank Him for one another, in the presence of one another, and then together invoke His blessings upon your lives, your home, your loved ones, and your dreams." Close quote. It's hard to describe the feeling you get when you kneel together in couple prayer and hear your spouse praying for you. I'll admit, we don't pray together near as often as we should, but when we do, hearing my husband ask the Lord to bless me, and thank the Lord for me. I just feel like He treasures me, like I'm precious to Him. If you're looking for a way to feel closer to your spouse, praying together really is a great place to start. I've heard it said that marriage works best when it's a triangle. A husband, a wife, and God make the 3 points of a triangle. As the couple moves closer to God, it brings them closer to each other. Do we pray together, read and discuss the scriptures as a couple, attend church together, and support each other in our ministry and callings? Are we united in our faith, in our desire to serve the Lord and keep His commandments? Romance is exciting, but it's not a solid foundation for marriage by itself. God is the best glue to hold a husband and wife together. I'll finish off with a quote from Elder Richard G. Scott, which can be found in the Love section of the Eternal Marriage Student Manual. He said, quote, "Love, as defined by the Lord, elevates, protects, respects, and enriches another. It motivates one to make sacrifices for another." Close quote. What is my challenge for the week? I really don't know. I think this week I want you to consider what we learned from Jesus' counsel in Matthew 19 and Adam's example in Genesis 2. Read through the modern-day prophet's counsel on marriage and come up with your own challenge. Married, dating, or single, I highly recommend going through the Eternal Marriage Manual. For the couples, either married or courting, you could find something to work on together to bring you closer to each other and to the Lord. For the youth and singles, consider your thoughts and attitudes toward the marriage relationship and what you can do to prepare to be part of a relationship based on selfless love. Next up, we're going to have a feeding frenzy with all 4 of our buddies: Matthew 21 through 23, Mark 11, Luke 19 through 20, and John 12. Enjoy your feast upon the words of Christ, and remember, we're all brothers and sisters in our Heavenly Father's family. We're in this together.